It's the Jim and Terry Show, but there is no Jim. He is ill, so we wish him well. Get well soon. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Or maybe the way you run healthcare in a province keeps the doctors away. Maybe there's a migration of doctors out of provinces that are privatizing healthcare. Or shouldn't they be coming into a province with healthcare privatization? Where did all that come from? I don't know. Jim is not well. That's where it all comes from. But beyond that, there's no connection to what I found interesting this morning. So I'm going to begin with a clip, and then we'll talk about the journey to get to that point. Here we go.
Aren't you sick of those Muslims coming in and making you fearful? Aren't you sick of those people, those leftists and socialists and woke people, changing our culture and transforming what used to be ours and taking it? Wouldn't you like to get that back? And you get them to forget the fact that they are being exploited, that they are voting for policies and politicians that will continue to serve the ultra rich by getting them to kind of think in terms of culture, right? As a conservative, you are constantly and forever representing the elite, and mostly the economic elite, those who have the power and the economic power, the class power. But in the United States, you find yourself in this difficult situation where you also must get votes. And you actually must appeal to enough of the population to where they will actually be willing to vote for you. Well, that creates a conservative dilemma. How do you get past that situation where you want to protect the prestige and control of the elites and people who have always controlled power, but you also have to generate enough populist support to get enough votes, a majority? They must get white working class individuals to constantly vote against their own economic interests, and they do that by stoking cultural outrage and fear. And so Christian nationalist rhetoric and Christian nationalist ideology is really an example, I think an example of how elites and upper class individuals are able to constantly distract white evangelicals and other white working class Americans with the narrative that the culture is being taken, that we're oppressed, that we're being persecuted, that we're losing America as we know it or our way of life, and we're losing control. And so it is something that becomes extremely motivating when politicians who are savvy in communication are able to kind of use and leverage that rhetoric.
Okay, that's a little clip from a posting on Twitter, the formerly known as Twitter, X, and a feed that was posted that talked about, I think the heading was, "I wish all Canadians would take the time to watch this clip." Okay, so I did follow it and did click on it. It's the same thing going on in Canada, says this person. Pierre Poilievre has managed to brainwash the very people that he would do the most harm to. If we had a strong media in Canada, Canadians would be more informed. Unfortunately, we do not. Okay, so that got my interest, and this was posted on CBC News. So I followed the link, and it's by someone called Boston Smalls. I don't know if that's a person or an entity, but the caption for that clip was called "No Lies Told." And if you click on Boston Smalls on that video, you get to know who is the speaker. So I clicked on the video, and then I saw a post under the video saying, "Here is the speaker." All right, so I click on that, and apparently the speaker is Professor Sam Perry. So I click on that to find out who Professor Sam Perry is, and you go to a link that has Sam Perry's page on Twitter, and you can go and check out his stuff. What I did do, my first starting point is always, who is this guy? Where's he from? What's he doing? Is this current? And the idea here is that he's got a book. Of course he does. That's where most of these things start. And so I was interested in who wrote the book. So here's his CV, updated September the 6th, 2024. And apparently he is the presidential professor, Department of Sociology, University of Oklahoma. And that's aside from his journey to get to that point, which includes his BA in communications with a sociology minor, to Masters of Theology, to an MA in sociology, and a doctorate in sociology from University of Chicago. So quite an academic career that spanned 12 years to get all of that. Now, I always thought my 7 years in academia was enough. That's 12 years to get to where he is. But he speaks knowledgeably, and so I wanted to find out more about who Professor Samuel Perry is. And again, you can find this on Twitter. You can research Professor Sam Perry. You can find it all out yourself. I wanted to find out about his book, so I started to Google his book. And the book is called The Realist Guide to Religion and Science, or Religion for Realists. Samuel L. Perry paperback. You can pre-order it. Apparently it's being released this fall. It's under the theme of religious realism, and the question was raised by some Reddit people. And that's where I will go next and say, this question got me. Can a realist be religious? And so that took me down another line of thinking. The definition to me of realism is that you're attached to reality, but I would say that science is related to this question as well, because I'm not sure, and I've said this to some of the other podcasts that we follow, Jim and I, and Stay Spiritual's one, where I have often said, I'm not sure that you can equate reality with spirituality. That spirituality makes claims, whereas science makes provable theories, things that you can test, put in a test tube, quantify, measure, put out the measuring stick, as Brene Brown mentioned in her discourse that I talked about the other day. Yeah, can a realist be religious? I'm not sure that you can. I think they're mutually exclusive terms like spirituality and science. You've got something that kicks in called faith when you come to a gap, when you can't explain something. Science has not explained it yet. So, for example, the Big Bang versus creation. Can't explain the Big Bang, can't explain creation. So you insert the cause, which is, for most people, God, a divine being of some sort. That would put it in the realm of religion because you can't prove it. It's taken by faith. But just a reminder that things like the rainbow, the stars, the motion of the planets in the solar system, all of that was taken by faith for thousands of years before the invention of the telescope, before Galileo, before religion put science on trial. And that's not just Galileo, but also the Scopes monkey trial in Tennessee. And I forget the year that took place, but Clarence Darrow, we had something that was going on that was a challenge. It was the teaching or lack of teaching of evolution versus creation in the classrooms of America. Yeah, when you can't prove stuff, it's faith that takes you to where you want to believe. And most of us would find that the reasonable position is to wait and say, I don't know, as in agnosticism, until you find out that science can know. And that's pretty awesome to me because we've made so many things possible through science, but I'm not sure that we've made much possible through belief. So there's where I draw the line in the sand. You can take it so far, you can believe whatever you want, if it makes you feel good, if it makes you feel better, makes you a better person, go ahead. Be it. Believe it. But it's science that has led the way for human progress to this point in time. And I think that's what the message is, but that's a different question. This whole thing got started by the word Christian nationalist and how populism, which goes to a conversation with my good friend Michael Michael, we were for a long time in a Christian rock band for a number of years. Then he moved recently to New Brunswick. We have not lost touch, but haven't been frequent flyers in conversation as much as we used to over a beer and a game of euchre. But I got a chance to meet with Michael, and this is one of the topics we had on our table with our meal at an Irish pub. in, what is it, Leslie and Highway 7 in a restaurant there. Pinone's, I think. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's Irish. Anyway, conversation that covered all kinds of things, which led me to this one about populism and what it is. And I defined populism not as being popular, but as being stoked by the flames of otherizing. That's making other people less than who you are. And in Christian nationalism, that comes down to, are your Christian values the only values acceptable in a multicultural society, as in Canada or the United States? And that got me to the sociologist, and that's my journey. Sam Perry was the sociologist we ended up with. I'm not sure I'll get his book. I'm already convinced of his thesis, but it'd be interesting to see what he does say, because the book, Americans and Westerners more generally neglect the scientific study of religion. We do so at our peril. Religion for Realists, Perry argues that we need scientific study of religion, the rational, data-driven analysis of what people believe, and we need that more now than ever. Science applied to religion, so that we can understand how people are co-opting faith and making it say things that it doesn't, making claims that it shouldn't, and taking over the culture wars for the far right, stoking the flames of intolerance. The Jim and Terry Show. Professor Sam Perry, Religion for Realists. Bye-bye for now.